So Gemara now is going to go into the topic of Yesh Eim Lemikra, Yesh Eim Lemesaira. On the bottom of Daf Gimel, we had said, Rebbe says you need 5 dayanim for dinei mamnus, for like Haidos Valvois. And he says, because the Torah says, Asher Yashin Elikim, and it says, Nemer Elihim Lamata, Nemer Elihim Lamaila. Just like it says Elim twice. One time you have to tell you to go to a judge. There's two extras. The two extras, one is, so each one is a Lashon Rabim of Yarshian. So therefore it comes to 4, and Ein Bezdin Shakal, so it gets to 5. But that was Rebbe, because Rebbe says Yudarshan Yarshian, which is the way the pasuk is pronounced. But the Rabbanan say it says Yarshian, which is Yesh Eim L'Mesaira. We follow not the way it's pronounced, the way we read it, but the way it's written. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, so that's we're up to the top line in Daled Amud Aleph. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda ben Royetz, Ubei Shammai, Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Kiva, Kulu Svir Lu Yesh Eim L'Mikra. They hold you follow the Kriya, Yesh Eim L'Mikra, the way it's read and not the way it's written. Like Rebbe Hadamar and Rebbe, we just said that Rebbe says we darshan yarshian, which is read in the Lashon Rabim with it's read with as a Lashon Rabim. The Rabbanan say because it's missing a vav, so we know too that it doesn't mean a Lashon Rabim. So Rebbe, we already saw that he holds yesh eim lemikra. Not he holds. We don't look at the way it's written, but at the way it's read. Rabbi Yehuda ben Royetz, the Tanya. Shalom Tamidim es Rabbi Yehuda ben Royetz. Ekra ani shivim. The pasuk says, "Legabi isha yeledes." We've had a number of times. We know that the din of a isha yeledes, if she has a boy, she's tamei for, I think it's 7 days for a boy and 14 days for a girl. So, and if then after that's followed by Yimei Taira, which for a girl is 33 days, and for a boy, it's, I think, 66 days. She has the other way around. I'm sorry. A girl, it's a girl. It's longer. She has 2 weeks of Tumah and 66 days of Taira. So and for a boy, it's 33 days of Taira and 1 week of Tumah. So they asked, that Talmidim asked Rabbi Yehuda ben Royetz, that the pasuk, when it says that a girl, she's tamei, it says shvuayim. For the Gemara, they asked him, maybe it means shivim, maybe it means 70 as opposed to shvuayim, as opposed to being for 2 weeks. So Amalahen, Rabbi answered back, no, it's not true. You don't read it, even though it says, even though it could be read as shivim. Maybe she's tamei for 70 days. He says there's a period of tumah and taira by a zachar, which is 7 days and 33 days, and there's a period of tumah and taira by the birth of a girl, which is 2 weeks or 14 days and 66 days. Just like the Meitaira of a Zachar is 1/2 is 33 days, and by a girl the Meitaira is 66. So the day you make Tumah, when it says Shvuayim by a girl, it doesn't mean Shivim. You shouldn't read it as Shivim, but rather read it as Shvuayim as 2 weeks, because it's double the 1 week of a boy. So that was his first answer. But then he ran after them. He ran after them. I don't even have to give you this answer. Shuayim krinin, the Lamaisa, the pasuk is read as Shvuayim, as 2 weeks. And we follow the way it's read. And the way it's actually read, the way people read it, is Shvuayim as 2 weeks. So it doesn't make a difference if you could read, if the word is written as Shivim, as 70, because the way it's read is Shvuayim. So you see, he holds, again, Yesh Eim Lemikra. Beis Shammai, where do we see Beis Shammai holds Yeshem Lemikra the Tanan? Kutvach Rafal. We are on Dalit Amid Aleph, about 12 lines down, 12, 15 lines down. We're continuing. The Gemara had asserted that there are a bunch of Manda Amr. We said first Rebbe, we had said on the previous blot, says Yesh Eim Lemikra. We follow the way words are read, not the way they're written, not the way it's written in the Torah. And because we say Yesh Eim Lemikra. So, and we want to say, we brought, Rabbi Yechon said, not just Rabbi, it would have been riots, Beis Shammai, Rav Shimon, Rav Kiva, Kulusfir. They all hold the same way. So now we're up to Beis Shammai. We saw Rabbi Yehuda ben Yayitz, now we're up to Beis Shammai. The Tanan. Beis Shammai, Kala Nitten al Mizbeach HaChitzon. All the matanas that are given on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, meaning the Mizbeach in the Azara of the Beis HaMikdash, that's where you brought the Chatas and the Asham and the Shlamim, all the Karbanas, B'derech Klal were brought on the outside Mizbeach, except for I think the Parhalam Davar Shatzibur and the Parakayim Mashiach, those Chatoyis. But other than that, the Karbanos are brought on the Mizbeach HaChitzon. And the rule is that the Chatas, you need to do 4 Hazais, one on each Keren, on each corner of the Mizbeach, and the other Karbanos, the Oila and the Shlamim and the Asham, they are all done on, you do 2 matanas, Shtayim Shem Arba. You do on 2 opposite corners, and that way it covers all 4 corners. That's B'derech Klal, the din of we're going to have a lot of this Bez Hashem in about a year when we start Kachim, but that's a general rule. So what happens, Shammai says, Kol Nitten al Mizbeach HaChitzon, and all the matanas on the Mizbeach HaChitzon, Shenatnu b'matana achas keeper. If the regular karbanos, other than a chatas, if you end up doing just one matana, you just do one matana of dam, you just put dam on one corner, that's enough b'di eved that you yaitza. Shenema b'dam zvachecha yishvach, because the pasuk says that you should lashon yachid, you should pour the blood. So that tells you just one is enough. Ubachatas shtei matanas. By chatas, which you normally have to do 4 matanas, 2 is sufficient. That's Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says there's no nafkamina. Just like all the karbanis, 1 matanas dam b'di eved is enough, even though you're supposed to do 2. By chatas, what you're supposed to do 4. Also, if you do 1, it's enough. My time at the Beis Shammai. What's the reason of Beis Shammai? Why does he say that a chatas, the minimum is mount to b'di eved is 2? Because it says karnos, karnos, karnos. There are 3 psukim that mention karnos, meaning the corners, the horns of on the top of the mizbeach. Harei kan shesh, since each is a lashon rabim, it's a plural lashon, so 3 times 2 is 6. Arba la mitzvah. 2 of them are to tell you that there's a mitzvah that bidi lechatchila you should do on all 4 sides. Ushtayim la'akev, and then there's 2 extra, so to tell you that you need a minimum of 2 bidi eved. The least amount you can do. So that's why Beis Shammai says by a chatas you need this. Karnos, karnos, karnos. He says, Beis Hillel says the way it's written is without a vav on 2 of the karnos. So we look at the way it's written and we say since it's written missing, that's going to limit it and say it's not to be read as a plural, but rather as a single. So then, Harei kan arba, so you're only left with 4 altogether. And he says, one we have to write, obviously, to tell you that the minimum that have to, 1 we know because it says Karen. So Gimel a mitzvah. 3 are to tell you that in addition to the original one, you also have to do, in order to be yotze the mitzvah, l'chatchila, you have to do all 4 sides. Va'achas la'akev, and only 1 is left over, la'akev. So he darshans Beis Hillel, in addition, starting from 4, he also darshans it differently. That means Beis Shammai had said 4 is la mitzvah. Beis Hillel says you only need 3 la mitzvah because 1 it says Karen, so that's pashtus that you have to do 1. So the other 3 are to tell you that 3 more are amounting to 4 is la mitzvah, and then there's only 1 left to tell you that 1 spritzing of blood on the mizbeach by a chatas is la'ak. ve'ema kula mitzvah. Correct the Gemara, maybe one is using the darshan the same way as Beis Shammai, saying that all four are to tell you la mitzvah, and none of them are active. So kapara b'chti le'ashkan. You don't find the kapara without any zrika. See, you clearly have to do at least one zrika. It's not possible that none of the zrikas are active. But in any case, we see that Beis Shammai darshan the kronos with the vav, even though that's not the way it's written, he darshaned it the way it's read. The way it's read is kronos, so therefore he darshaned all six, because he darshaned yesh aim lemikra. Reb Shimon, where do we see Reb Shimon holds yesh aim lemikra? And we don't say we look at the way it's read and not the way it's written. The Tanya, shtayim kil chosan. If you have a sukkah, this should be familiar, right? We know the halacha of a sukkah is you have to have two walls that are 10 tfachim, which is the minimum size of a wall. Ushlishas afilu tefach, and the third wall could be even one tefach. If Shimon says, no, you need 3 full walls, and the fourth one could be even a tefach, which is clearly not the way we paskin, right? We know that you can have 3 walls, and that's it. You don't have to have an additional tefach. You can have 2 walls and a tefach. But my kamifliki, what's the base of the machlaikas? One savri yeshem lemesaira. Rav Shimon savri yeshem lemikra. Gemara explains. Rabbanan savri yeshem lemesairis. Rabbanan hold, we look at the way it's written, the way the Torah writes it. Basukos, basukos, basukos. It says the first 2 sukkos are missing a vav. So we don't, this is a very consistent thing that we keep on saying, that when the Torah writes it without, where it's mechusser, it's missing the vav, so we don't darshan it as a plural. So since 2 of the sukkos don't have the vav, so we don't darshan as plural. And then the third one says basukos with the full word. It's written with the full word. So therefore that harekan arba. You add up to 4. Dal chad kral gufe. We have to leave out one pasuk that it says basukos, which is a single sukkah. That's to tell you the din that you need a sukkah. Pashlu tlas, you have 3 extra. Asay hilchasa garata l'shlishis. So we have 3 psukim of sukkahs to tell you have to have 3 walls. And we have a halacha l'moshe misinai that the final wall only has to be a tefach. So the hilchasa comes garata l'shlishis ukimta tefach. It reduces the 3rd wall that only has to be a tefach. That's the Rabban. Shimon sava basukas. Harei kanchesh, he darshans the way it's read. Yesh aim lemikra, the way it's read, and with the way it's read, it's not any different whether it has the vav or not. We read it as a plural, so that equals up to 6. Dal chad kro legufe. We take out one of the psukim, right? It says besukas 3 times, and one time it has to say sukkahs to tell you that we're talking about a sukkah. You need to make a sukkah. Pashalu arbas, you're left with 4. Asay hilchos garata l'rvias. So here we reduce the 4th wall. The hilchos halacha l'moshe misinai tells you it doesn't have to be 4. It only has to be a full wall. It only has to be 1 tefach, but that's the 4th wall. That's why Reb Shimon holds you need 3 walls plus a tefach. So you see, he also.
So what happened from 6 down to 4? What happened to the number 5?
Because each word of sukkos is a lashon of is a plural lashon, but we have to take away one of them legufe to tell you the din, just to tell us we're talking about a sukkah. So once you took away that word had 2 in it, so you're left with only 4. That means we're saying when we say legufe, we mean that one of the words are lepusik, not one of the sukkahs that we made in our cheshbon, but rather one of the words. And each word had 2 in it. Rebbe Kiva, where do we see Rebbe Kiva holds yesh aim lemikra? Kiva minayin l'revi'as dam sheyotza mishnei mesim. How do we know that there is a revi'as dam? Revi'as dam is the minimum amount of dam to be metama person. Less than that, it's not metama. Shemetama ba'il. How do we know if you have a revi'as of dam that was not from one mace, but you were mitzdaref too? You added together half a revi'as of each mace. That it's metama ba'il. That if it's in oil, it's metama. Shenever akol nafshes mace lo yava. He shouldn't come. Someone who's tar with kachim should not go where there's a nafshes mace. So nafshes is a lashon rabin. Shtei nefashos. It says nafshes, which is 2 nefashos. But shirechen, it says mace, 1 mace. So you have 2 lives, 2 people whose dam was mitzdaref to make 1 shear to be metam. Rabbanan disagree. Nafshas ksiv, it says without the vav, and again, like we said in almost most of the other limudim, when it's mechusar, when it's written mechusar, the way it's written in the Torah is mechusar, then we don't darshan it to mean a plural. Maskevla. So we've come up with all these. We've explained how everyone holds that we have all these manda amrim who say yesh aim lemikra, that we follow the way the word is written, and we don't follow the way it's the way it's read and not the way it's written. Maskevla Ravacha by Yaakov. Can it really be? You brought all these people who hold that we follow the way the word is read and not the way it's written. But can that be? Vatanya b'chalav imay, that you now loisavashal gadi b'chalav imay. You can't cook a gadi, a goat, in its mother's milk, a kid in its mother's milk. Yachal b'chalav. Maybe it means you can't cook it in the fat. How do you know to say chalav and not chalav? Amrit yesh aim lemikra. It must be because we look at the way it's read, and we know the way it's read. It's not read as chalav; it's read as chalav, as milk. Ela dekuliyama yesh aim lemikra. It must be that everyone, in spite of all the riots that we brought before, that people say that it goes based basa the yesh aim lemikra. Even though we brought a bunch of machlokes, and it seemed that there were people who were being chaylik on the riots of the people who hold yeshem lemikra. Now we're going to go through all the chaylikim on. We brought all the list of people who hold yeshem lemikra, and in the course of bringing those riots of how they hold it, we saw also they were chaylikim on them. There were those who disagreed. So, but now we're saying everyone holds yeshem lemikra. So, what about all the chaylikim on the riots that we brought before, of the mandama that we brought before? So what about? So first of all, we had our din, and it said Yarshian, and we said Rebbe Darshans Yarshian, which is a lashon rabbim. Asher Yarshian Elihim. So we say Yarshian. It says Elihim. So it says both Elihims, both judges are Yarshian. Each one is a lashon rabbim, and the Rabban disagreed. That's how Rebbe got to 4, and then he said you have to add on 1 to be not a bezdin shakel, so you get to 5. And the Rabbanan said you only need 3. So they didn't darshan Yarshian as a lashon rabbim. So we thought before it's because they say yesh aim lemikra. They look at how it's written and it's missing a vav, and therefore it's not a plural lashon. So we say no. Rabbanan b'hakam ifli. Rebbe savar Yarshian elihim achrini. That Rebbe says that Yarshian, it says elihim 2 times. So each elihim is 2. Rabbanan savar Yarshian daheich v'hai. They say that when it says Yarshian elikim a lashon rabbim, it's referring to both the elihim, the earlier judge that was mentioned, plus the judge that was saying now. So even though it says Yarshian a lashon rabbim and it's referring to Elohim, referring to the judges, doesn't mean that it's 2 times 2, but rather the lashon rabbim is referring to the 2 times it mentioned the judge. So they're not really being chaylik. They're not being chaylik on Yarshian, whether we darshan as a lashon rabbim because of yeshem l'mesaira. It's only they agree yeshem l'mikra, but they still don't understand the lashon rabbim to mean double 2. Rabbi Yehuda ben Yayetz like pligi Rabban Aleh. Rabbi Yehuda ben Yayetz, that was the next one. He said about that a isha. We said maybe an isha should be tameh for 70 days as opposed to shvuayim. And we said no. He said no. He ran after the Talmidim. He says it's not true because we read it as shvuayim. So we say yeshem lemikra. So there's no chaylik on Rabbi Yehuda ben Yayetz. So we don't have to justify anything. Beis Hillel, and we had the machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel legabe the zrikas dam that we said it's dependent on. According to Beis Hillel, we darshan chronos, and then we read it twice without the vav. It's written twice without the vav. So he darshan. We said he darshan yeshem l'mesaira. So the Gemara. No, Rabbi Beis Hillel is not because he holds yeshem l'mesaira that we go bust the way it's written without the vav, and therefore it's not a plural lashon. Comes from a different source altogether. The Tanya v'chipa v'chipa v'chipa. It says 3 times by a chatas that v'chipa. Nehadin. Why did I have to say it 3 times? Because I would have learned. V'leidinu nemar damim lamata. It says you're zayrik dam lamata. By the other kabbanis, there was a line in the middle of the mizbeach. The other karbanos other than the chatas, where the zrika was underneath the line and the chatas was above, was on the kronos, on the actual corners of the mizbeach. And it says damim by both of them. Never dam lamata by the other karbanos, but never dam lamaila by the kronos. Madam mamur lamata shenosim batan achas keeper. Just like we said v'shaftu. It says, I forgot what the pasuk was. It says v'dam zvachacha yishpoich. So we darshan that all the karbanos, the ones that are normally brought as shtaim shem arba, that if you did one b'diavad, that's enough. So too with the chatas. If you bring one, it's enough. That's one possibility. Maybe you'll darshan differently. It says damim both by this. These are all both the chatas and the other karbanos. They're all brought in the mizbeach hachitzin. But we also have a few karbanos that are brought in the mizbeach b'fnim, such as I believe Rashi says the carbon of the kain gadol, the chatas of the kain gadol, and the paralim dav shel tzibur, and madam amur b'fnim chisar achim matanis le'asav le'klum. Over there, we know that those that are brought in the mizbeach have pnimi. The din is that every one of them is ma'akev. You need all four of them. Maybe we should say compare the ones that are bechutz to the ones b'fnim, because this is a chatas, just like that's a chatas. So which one should we say? Do we say we should look at the other karbanos that are brought in the same as bech? The karbanos brought on the mizbeach hapnimi is also a chatas, and it's also brought lemitzvah. L'chatchila, it should be on daled karbanos. So maybe we should learn out this chatas also from there, and therefore it should need all four b'diavad. And don't learn out from the mizbeach hachitzin, from the other karbanos, the oil asham and shlamim, that are even just one is la'akev. Talmud. So we don't know which way to go. Talmud laima v'chipa. So we darshan like this. It says 3 times v'chipa. Me'adin. Keeper. So we learn. Keeper afal pishalei nasan el shloisha. Keeper afal pishalei nasan el shtaim. Keeper afal pishalei nasan el achas. So the Chacham and Darshan, no, we learn v'chiper that each v'chiper is coming to reduce. It says the Rebbeinu Shalom is giving you a favor. He's saying you get a kapara. So first the v'chiper says, even though I would have thought, since it's not conclusive, I would think we wouldn't know whether to learn from Mizbeach HaPnimi or to learn from the bottom. So therefore we wouldn't know what to do. So we'd have to assume that all 4 are ma'akev. So therefore the Torah says v'chiper. The first v'chiper expands and it says you get a kapara even if you left out 1. Then the second v'chiper says even if you left out 2. And the third one says even if you left out 3. So you're left with only 1 is la'akev. So that will be the explanation of the Rabbanon of Beis Hillel, of why he's chaylik on Beis Shammai. It's not like we thought before because of Kronos that he says yesh aim l'Messiah, but rather because of a drasha of a chippah. Rav Shimon Rabbanon v'hapli, and then we had the machlekes Rav Shimon and Rabbanon that whether you darshan basukos. And we said Rav Shimon darshaned basukos the yesh aim l'mikra the way it's read, and the Rabbanon said, but it's written without a vav, and therefore you can't darshan all 6 of them as sukkos, as you can't darshan 6 plurals to end up with 4. So we can say no. The Rabban l'chayra are saying yesh aim le Messiah, but so it's like the Rabban b'hapligi. Rav Shimon Savas sechaloi boikra. Rav Shimon says the fact that you need schach on top of these walls, you don't need a kra. The Rabbanan Sicha Boikra. They hold you do need 1 pasuk for schach, so therefore you don't have an extra pasuk to tell you you don't have 4 walls left over, and then you say that it reduces by 1 because 1 is to tell you the actual din of schach. So you're only left with 4 with that you need 2. You have to reduce it by 1, and therefore you're only left with 2 full walls and 1 tefach. Now, what about the Rabbi Kiva and the Rabbanon? So the Rabbanon l'chayru we said was saying yesh aim l'Messiah. Rabbi Kiva savar nafshos tarti mashma. The machlek is like this. We said Rabbi Kiva holds nafshos which we read as nafshos as a plural lashon, so it's mashma too. Rabbanan savri nafshos de alma mashma. Rabbanan say no, even if you look at yesh aim lemikra, the way it's read, nafshos, on the kol nafshos meis, it doesn't mean nafshos on every more than one nefesh, more than one person. It means a nefesh, nafshos, the people. It's talking about a lashon. It's talking about the people as a whole, which can be referred to as nafshos, and any person, but it doesn't mean plural. So we've answered how it could be that everyone who was chaylik earlier could really not be saying yesh aim l'mesaira. They could really all agree yesh aim l'mikra because we had the kasha from loisavasha gadi b'chalei v'imai, and nobody learns it as chayla v'imai. Everyone learns b'chalei v'imai as milk and not as chayla. Does everyone really agree with this? Vatanya, we have two times it says l'taytafos without a vav, and one time with a vav. Harei kan arba, since there are two lashon yachid and one as a lashon rabbim, that adds up to 4, and that teaches you that you have to have 4 separate compartments in the tefillin for the different parshias in the tefillin shel rosh. Rabbi Shmuel, that's what Rabbi Shmuel says. Rabbi Kiva Omer, ain't it tzarich? Rabbi Kiva says, no, it's not necessary to learn out from there. We can learn out from a different source that you need 4. Tat bekasvi shtayim. The word tat in Lashon kasvi is 2. Pas ba'afriki shtayim. And the word tas, or pas, in African is 2. So that's how we darshan to come to 4. But in any case, Rabbi Shmuel used the words as they're written and not the way they're read. They're all read as the Taitafos, and he said 2 of them are only a lashon yachid because they're written missing the vav, which is, like we said many times, like we've had a number of times, that's yesh aim le mesaira. Elo olam pligi. The Gemara says, so we see over here that ein chanami, there are those who say yesh aim le mesaira. It's not that everyone holds yesh aim le mikra. That which there's a machlaikas about is where the way it's read is different than the way it's written. Since it's going to be written, it's not a difference of that. It's read differently with the vav or without a vav. There is no vav. It's just a question of how it's read, but the word would be written the same regardless. So it's not that it's written without the vav, but we pronounce it with the vav. It doesn't, there's no different word. It's just one word that can be pronounced 2 different ways. That everyone agrees, yeshem lemikra. So we have to figure out, how do we read this word? It doesn't mean chaylev v'chalav. Everyone will agree that we're going to give credence to the way it's read, because we have to have a way to read it. Fact the Gemara. Okay, so we've come to the conclusion that certainly there's yesh aim le mesaira. We follow the way it's written. I'm sorry, we yesh aim le mikra. We follow the way it's read when the word is not changed depending on the way it's written or the way it's read. That means if it's not missing a vav, if it's just a question of how to pronounce the word, we follow our tradition of how it's read. In fact, the Yira both words are written the same, and yet there's still a machlekes about whether we follow the way it's written or the way it's pronounced. The Tanya, someone who's blind in one eye is potter from the din of being oila l'regel, to be of going up to Yerushalayim on the Yom Tovim. So Zak the Gemara Shenamar, where does it come from? Shenamar Yira Yeroah. We darshan both the way it's written as Yira, and Yeroah means Yira means you should see, and Yeroah he should be seen. Kederach Shabal Liris Kach Ba Lirois. Just like the Rebbeinu Shalom, just like the Rebbeinu Shalom comes to see the Lirois, to see the Yidden there, which is the Mikra, the way it's read, Lirois. Kach bo leroy. So too, the Rebbeinu Shalom comes to be seen by the Oile Regel. And ma lirois b'shtein. Just like the Rebbeinu Shalom certainly has no chesroinus, he can't be. It's can't contemplate the Rebbeinu Shalom missing an eye, so he always sees fully. Af lirois b'shtein. So too, the way he is seen by the Yidden that come also has to be with shteinov, and therefore someone with only one eye is put. So but in any case, you see that with darshaning, not just even though it's written. Even though it's yesh aim, even though there's a way that it's written and the way that it's read, it means it's written as lirois, and it's written as lerois, and it's read as lirois. We still darshan the way that we still use the way that it's written. We don't dispense with the way it's written. We darshan both of them. So it's why. So if we hold yesh aim, so how are we going to? If we do say yesh aim le Messiah, how do we know that there is an isser to cook a kid in the mother's milk? Maybe it means in the mother's chaylev, in the mother's fat. Since the Torah says to be mavashal is only possible in milk. You can't be mavashal in chaylev. Chaylev is fat. That's frying. When you cook something in fat, it wouldn't be called bishul. It would be called, I don't know what it is. Whatever the word for frying is. But it wouldn't be called bishul. Bishul is in a liquid, so therefore we know that it must be talking about milk. Okay, we'll stop over here. Bez Hashem, tomorrow morning, 8:40?
Yeah, works for me.
Okay. There's no objection.